Hey everybody, I just wanted to walk you through kind of my process for doing this little research project here in our collaborative design class. So uh, the goal of the project was to kind of find a emerging technology um, that was interesting to you. So for me, I have a background in biology. So I think one of the really cool things that's happening nowadays is um, 3D printed tissue. So the fact that you can print human tissue with a 3D printer, I think that's pretty cool. So I'm going to start my research project simply by doing this. Tossing the keyword into Google, I have 3D printed human tissue, kind of all the things that I want to learn about, and to kind of check see if I have enough information that I could even do this as a search. So if I look through this thing, it looks like there's quite a bit of information here about 3D printing human tissue. All right, so that's a good start. So I know that I can use that kind of as a topic for me in terms of my research. Now, there's a whole bunch of articles here, and I need to kind of decide what things are good to use and what aren't. I have one here that I clicked on. It says 3D printer creates human muscles and tissues that could actually replace real ones. Sounds like a promising article. It's from Quartz. Now, I've never heard of Quartz before, but what I can do is I can go search this website and see if the stuff I'm getting from here actually is credible. So you can actually, sometimes you actually can use Wikipedia. If I go here and search quartz, now there's a whole bunch of stuff. Um, you know, this is obviously the gem quartz. But is there other things that, oh, right here it says other arts entertainment quartz publication. Okay, so I can read about that. And I read about this thing, and I can see that it was launched in 2012, which means it's fairly new, but it's been established for a little while. But for the most part, it's a valid source. I can use this thing and say, all right, I agree with this publication. This makes sense. Um, if we click on some of the other ones, that might not necessarily be the case. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I cheated a little bit and looked at some of these earlier, but this one's called Interesting Engineering. Looks super cool. I've looked through some of this stuff, but when I go to Wikipedia and look for it, it doesn't have much information for me about what this thing is. Now, that doesn't mean that this inherently is not a credible source, but it doesn't mean I can prove that it is credible. So just be cautious of using a source similar to that, because you might not have the information you want. Um, One way we can get around using credibility is if we actually go to the databases at school. So I'll kind of show you guys how to do that. If you go to the RH homepage and go on schools, come down here to Roth, and you can go all the way down here to library. If we click on library, it's going to give us a place where we can start doing some searching. So if we go to databases and online resources and click that, it's going to bring us here and we can actually search for things. Now, the benefit of doing a search like this in the databases is everything in here is going to be credible. So you don't have to do that kind of fact checking. You can just go and read the articles and take what they're saying as proof. So I already did that and I have some search results here. You see I have a bunch of articles about 3D printed tissues, which is a great place to start. So obviously as I'm doing this, I'm taking a bunch of notes, making sure I know what's going on with all this stuff. One thing through reading a couple of the articles that I was not finding was the history of it. So how did this whole thing even start? So I can try again and just do a little search for the history of this thing. Now, Wikipedia is one of those things that comes up. So, we can start there. I would not recommend using Wikipedia as a full source, but as a starter point to get some information, it's helpful. And so right here, they have the history of it. And we see that it was first introduced in 2003 by Thomas Boland at Clemson University. So what I can do from this is I can either A, go down to the references and see if I can find an article that I can click on that will give me some of that information. or B, simply look up the creator. So if I highlight him here and right click, I can do a Google search for him and I find some information about the stuff he was doing. And right here, there's an article from 2003, and I can start to read about some of the stuff that he did. So it's a pretty nice way to go about your research, and it's pretty helpful. And this is just kind of my process. Obviously, your topics are going to be different, your process can be slightly different, but this is just how I would do it. One of the other things you can do, obviously, you're writing down your notes with all the information, but you need to make sure you know where you got it from. A great way to organize that stuff is from what we call Google Keep. Google Keep is something that you all have access to. It looks something like this. It's basically just little virtual note cards. And what I started doing is all the resources I found, I just copied and pasted the URL right into here. Now, that's not an official citation, but it will be able to take me back to where I found the information so I can start and read that again. So that's just a nice little way to go about starting your research. Now, I did it really fast because I had already done this before the video. Your process is probably going to take a little bit longer, but this is kind of the structure of how it should look and the way you should kind of go about doing your research. So that's pretty much how that works.